Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our weekly investor update. My name is Rachel Curlew, Assistant Vice President of the Investment Banking here at Mayberry Investments Limited, and I'll be your host today. Joining me again is Percival Braham, one of our superb investment advisors. Welcome, Percival.
Thanks, Rachel, and it's good to have you back on the program.
Thank you. Good to be back. We can always count on Percival to share some valuable insights into the market, so be sure to stick around for our special segment later on in the show. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell to stay up to date with the channel and share our content with anyone you think would benefit from these updates. And with that said, we have a bit of bad news. This is our final episode for the season, but our virtual investor updates and forums will return in September, at which time we will be back right here with new weekly uploads, new guests, and a new look. However, while we're gone, you can always reach out to us for some one-on-one advice. And if you are looking to embark on your investment journey, make sure that first step is with us here at Mayberry. So follow us on social media to learn more about how you can get started today. And with that said, we'll jump into today's presentation. First of all, we'll start with Blue Power.
Thank you, Rachel. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be starting the analysis on Blue Power Group Limited, and we're looking at their financials for the year ended April 2022. Now, Blue Power Group is one of those companies on the market that is not as volatile as others trading on the junior market. In my view, the market sentiments for Blue Power Group is pretty much stable and good. And I think this is based primarily on their performance over the years, recording net profits for majority of the years that they have been listed on the market, and also in part due to the excellent leadership and management team that Blue Power Group Limited has. They are headed by their chairman, Mr. Jeffrey Hall, who is seen as one of the most prominent businessmen and business minds in Jamaica. Blue Power Group Limited primarily manufactures soaps. You might know them based on their manufacturing of Blue Power, or what we as Jamaicans call cake soap, as well as Castile soap, just to name a few. Looking at their performance for the year ended April 2022, it was somewhat of a hot and cold year for Blue Power, and this was primarily due to global events which are happening in Eastern Europe, coupled with events taking place in CARICOM in terms of measures implemented for trading within the region. Now we see where the company recorded revenue of $526.45 million, which was actually a decline from the previous year. We also saw a decline in gross profits, minus 24%. Operating profit and loss, we saw a decline there by 161%, which is somewhat significant for the company. However, importantly in my mind is the fact that shareholders' equity remained above $1 billion, totaling $1.43 billion. The company's total asset base still strong, being over $1.5 billion, and earnings per share increased by 82%, moving from 19 cents to 34 cents. Now, I made mention earlier of global events which would have impacted Blue Power and their profitability over the last financial year. We know that there was a measure implemented by CARICOM which pretty much applied a duty, 40% duty on soap manufactured here in Jamaica, based on the fact that the raw materials were pretty much imported materials. So even though the company would have spent considerable time over the last couple of years to solidify their relationships in the region and looking at export markets, that would have been impacted due to the measure. So they would have lost some revenue there. However, even though they lost revenue there, it also has provided the opportunity for Blue Power to revisit their approach, revisit their strategy. And what they did during the last 2 years was to try to find more outlets and more of a supply chain here in Jamaica, and the company is actively looking at other markets globally that they can export their products. So even as they try to mitigate the losses that they would have suffered within the region, the company has strategically formed partnerships and continues to form partnerships on the global market to correct the loss in revenue that they would have suffered over the last 12 months. Another thing that significantly impacted Blue Power's revenue and profitability over the last 12 months was the spike in prices for raw materials. And we know that the company imports most of its raw materials from Asia. And with global events taking place in Eastern Europe and shipping crisis that was taking place at that time, it would have impacted the inflow of raw materials for the company to produce the goods that are in demand. What the company has done, however, as I stated before, was to ensure that they capitalize on the local market. And one of the measures that they took, which pretty much impacted them, was to increase the price of some of their supplies. However, they quickly reversed that decision because they recognized that some of their long-standing and most valuable customers were being impacted. As we see better market conditions than what we would have observed over the last 2 years based on global events, we do anticipate that there will be some correction with the revenue and profitability of Blue Power. Number one, as they find new outlets for their products globally, as they look to capitalize more on the local market, and even as they pride themselves on improving on efficiency and productivity, we do anticipate that we will see more profitability in the quarters and the years to come. When you look at the 12-month period for 2022 compared to the 12-month period for 2021, we see where the company only had profitability for 2 quarters more than they had in 2021. They recorded actually a loss for the fourth quarter of 2022. However, in the annual report recently issued, the chairman of the company indicated that they do anticipate that going into quarters 3 and 4 for the new financial year, we will see some correction of the profits that are being recorded for the company. Now we see for the year 2022, the stock would have traded at a low of $3.02, a high of $4.56 in May of this year, and the current price closing yesterday is $3.64. However, if you look at the period prior to 2020, you would have seen that the stock would have traded as high as above $14 and would have been in the band of $8 to $14 for a period of time. My view on Blue Power is that, as I stated initially, being a company that is not so volatile on the market, the fact that they have good fundamentals, most times they would have recorded good financials, and they have a very competent leadership team which is currently strategizing and planning for the way forward. I do anticipate that moving over into next year, you will see the price of Blue Power trending upwards. So if you have Blue Power in your portfolio now, I would pretty much hold that stock with the view that the price is going to move upward. For those persons who would like to add a stock that would be appreciating over the medium to long term, then Blue Power Group Limited is a company that you can look at and add in large volumes given the price that it is currently going for on the market. What do you think about Blue Power, Rachel?
Yes, so I agree with you. First of all, they had a bit of a rough patch last year due to the global events, but they recently announced they have reorganized the management of the group. They have appointed Jeffrey Hall as their chairman, so he comes with his wealth of experience, and they have a new GM, Mr. Tollon. So I'm excited to see how all of that plays out, how the company reposition itself for growth and improving on efficiency given the spike in raw materials. So let's see how that plays out in the next 12 months. Now let's move on to Lumber Depot. Lumber is your one-stop shop for any hardware supplies from steel, lumber, electrical, plumbing, and everything in between. Let's see how they have performed for the year ended April 2022. The company reported revenues of $1.5 billion for the year, a 10% increase relative to $1.4 billion reported last year. Cost of sales increased 9%, which resulted in a gross profit of $340 million, up from $293 million reported the prior year. After considering a 7% increase in expenses, the company booked operating profits of $178 million, a 24% improvement. After considering financial cost of 7 million and taxes for the year, the company booked net profit of 183 mil, a 27% improvement from the 144 million they booked for the prior financial period. This translates to an EPS of 26 cents. Examining their balance sheet, the company continues to grow its asset base while reducing their liabilities. They grew assets 11% to 583 million, and they reduced their liabilities to 104 million relative to 203 million booked last year. This resulted in the company returning shareholders equity of 478 million. All right, so we can clearly see here that lumber continues to deliver strong results despite the global events that took place last year. Let's look at how these results affected the trading of the stock. We see here the stock closed the period at 291 at a PE of 11 times. So this is below the junior market PE of 18 times. Examining their quarterly profit movements, we are seeing a fall off in revenues for the last quarter of the year relative to the last quarter of last year. But examining the quarterly profit movements, we can see that the company is improving on their revenues. Their Q4 results are much better than Q2 and even Q3 results, so that's good for the company. Looking at how the stock has traded, it closed, as I mentioned earlier, the period yesterday, closed the period yesterday at 291. It's coming from a high of $4.11 in March. I believe for the upcoming year, lumber will continue to deliver solid results as the Jamaican economy continues to improve. We believe here at Mayberry that the construction industry will continue to contribute positively to GDP, which will positively affect lumber results. In the months, it can be speculated that lumber will face some volatility in lumber prices, which will arguably affect their revenues and their gross profit margins. But the company has already signaled from way back in March that they have already stockpiling inventories to hedge against any price increases to secure market share, their customer base, and ultimately their revenues. So taking all this into account, I believe that the stock, we will see an uptick in the stock of the price, minimum 50% within the next 6 to 12 months. So it's a definite buy for me. What are your thoughts, Percival?
All right, so I agree with you completely, Rachel. Lombard Depot remains one of those stocks that I really like. I've been watching their growth over the last 2 years, and I also remember when we did the forum for Lombard Depot coming to the end of last year, we actually predicted that the stock would have traded above $4, and we see where that happened in March of this year, where it went to a high of $4.17. In my mind, that is the band that Lombard Depot should really be trading in. We do know that with global events and the increase in commodity prices, they would have been affected by that, and also the increase in shipping costs, they would have been affected by that. I also agree that there will be some volatility over the next couple of months, probably next 6 to 12 months, but I trust in the company and their leadership that they'll be able to put the measures in place to ride out that wave of volatility that we anticipate. It is still a very good buy, still a very good stock to hold in your portfolio. I personally believe that it's a stock that you should be buying and holding for the medium term. We have not yet moved out of the construction boom that we have been experiencing here in Jamaica, and based on the fact that lumber is one of the major players in that sector, and they're pretty much a one-stop shop for all of your construction equipments and needs, they will definitely still continue to benefit from the boom in construction that we're seeing, which is projected to continue for a few years in Jamaica. So very good stock, very good company. We see where they are benefiting from good leadership, as well as they continue to implement strategies to ensure that they ride the wave and they come out with profitability, even in spite of global events which would have been affecting other companies on the Jamaican stock exchange. So buy lumber depot if it is that you don't have it in your portfolio as yet, but I don't think you should buy with a view to flipping this stock. I don't think this time in trading or in the markets is a time that you should be looking to buy and flip any stock, if you ask me. Now is a period and a time that you can actually be buying stocks and creating a portfolio that is geared towards wealth creation.
Thanks, Percival. I agree with you, and that sounds like the tip of the day. Investors, we need to consider that companies will be experiencing volatilities right now due to inflationary pressures globally, but we have to remember we're investing whether for the medium or for the long term. So I do encourage you to reach out to your Mayberry investment advisor so they can guide you as to how to position your portfolio to account for all of this. And that's it for today's discussion. I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in today. Your support is always appreciated. I would also like to thank my fellow panelists, Percival, for being such a wonderful and insightful co host. And to our viewers, thank you so much for your continued support. We can't wait to be back with you for September. Be sure to look out for updates on our return on our social media. We always share our live stream dates, new companies, and upcoming guests on our social media pages. So follow us there for all the details. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited, to receive all notifications and reminders. See you in September. Keep safe and remember, wise investors, slow and steady wins the race. Thank you.